You may know someone like this. They dislike drawing attention to themselves. They are not accustomed to expressing their needs. They are even less skilled at showing vulnerability in front of others. They always smile politely and nod. At gatherings, they quietly help clean up the mess. During family arguments, they softly say, "I'm fine." Even when their inner world is in turmoil, their face shows no ripple. They seem inherently sensible. They never make noise in front of teachers and never cause trouble for parents. You cannot find an image of them getting angry. You can hardly recall when they truly laughed heartily. They are like a neutral stone, fitting anywhere without taking up space. You do not think they are bad, but it is easy to forget their existence. They are too obedient. Obedient to the point of being like air. Too quiet, quiet enough to be overlooked. You might assume they are naturally gentle, or believe they truly have no worries. But you do not know that their shoulders have always been tense. You do not know that in those moments of surface calm, their inner self is constantly striving to maintain order. Like a child, forever sweeping up shards of broken glass. Every step is cautious, every word is considered, fearing that one extra move might shatter someone's boundaries. They always prioritize others' feelings. They are the first to step up when someone needs help. Yet no one ever asks them, "Are you okay?" They are not without need for comfort. They have simply grown accustomed to not troubling anyone. When you see them smiling and saying it's okay, perhaps they just have not learned how to say, "I'm really tired." All this appears so calm. But calm is never because there are no storms. It is because they have long learned to be silent in the tempest. Not because they are strong, but because they have no choice. You will encounter them in many settings. In the office, they always handle the closing tasks without complaining about overtime. At friend gatherings, they are the ones ordering food, taking photos, and considering everyone's preferences. They remember who does not eat spicy food, who wants sugar-free drinks, and who is in a bad mood today. But you have never heard them mention their own needs. If the restaurant has only one last portion of their favorite dish, they will smile and say, "You eat first, I'm not very hungry." When others unintentionally overlook their opinions, they simply nod and say, "Anything is fine." They have learned to find the balance point among everyone. They have also learned to sacrifice themselves first between themselves and others. Even in a single disagreement, they will yield immediately. Not because they lack stance, but because they fear conflict. They will smile and smooth things over, helping others find a way out, even if the matter should have someone taking responsibility for them. You say, "Are they too sensitive?" Actually, they are just too careful. You think they are pacifists, but they are simply afraid of trouble, afraid that saying no will cost them the relationship, afraid that expressing anger will make others uncomfortable. They live like a volume knob constantly being adjusted, always turning their own voice to the minimum, turning others' needs to the maximum. Even when exhausted, they still strive to keep the atmosphere from stiffening. Even with words on the tip of their tongue, they swallow them and replace with, "It's fine, really." The smile you see is not joy, it is habit. The silence you see is not calm, it is suppression. Do you think they truly have no desires? No, they just learned too early to control themselves. Learned too early to hide disappointment. Learned too early that they cannot be a burden to others. So they became the good person in everyone's eyes. But few people ask, "What do you really want?" You think that is personality, but it is a protection mechanism. These overly mature responses are not innate, they are trained by reality, time and again. In psychology, there is a concept called parentified child. It refers to children who, in their early years, are forced to take on responsibilities beyond their age. They might be the one comforting mom and persuading dad during parental arguments, or the one proactively caring for siblings, cleaning the house, and soothing emotions in family chaos. They learned too early to read the atmosphere, understood too early that if I'm not good, others will be more tired. So they began suppressing their emotions, hiding their dissatisfaction, automatically switching to sensible, obedient, no-fuss mode. This is not a choice, but instinct, a survival strategy, a stress response mechanism called fawning. Fight is resistance, flight is escape, freeze is paralysis, and fawn is appeasement. When you cannot fight and cannot leave, you can only try to please the other to gain a bit of safety. Appeasement is not weakness. Appeasement is powerlessness. It is the only path you found in chaos to avoid being hurt. You learned to control the scene, learned to restrain yourself before others explode. You no longer express your feelings because you once did, but were ignored, mocked, or even blamed. So you gradually understood that staying silent is safer than exposing vulnerability. You began to maintain a functional existence in crowds, appearing reasonable, steady, rational, never collapsing, never losing control, never being impolite. But you know, that is not your true self. That is how you practice surviving. You are not without need for care. You just learned long ago not to wait, not to ask, not to depend. Because once you depend, you might lose everything. So you chose self-regulation, forcing stability, appearing breezy on the surface while surging inside. But you cannot say it. You even say, "I need comfort," with great caution, afraid that speaking will make others think you're dramatic, afraid that opening up will make them walk away. You press all grievances into your body, expressing unspoken emotions through headaches, insomnia, stomach issues, allergies. You begin to take pride in "I can handle it myself," using "I don't need others" as protection. But deep down, what you crave most is to be unconditionally caught. To be asked, "You're tired too, right?" To be allowed once to collapse without explanation. You are not indifferent, nor detached. You just understood too early that expressing needs might not bring response, but disappointment instead. So you chose not to express, chose to pretend it's fine, chose to bear it alone. But please remember, these reactions are not defects. They are the armor you desperately grew to survive without support. You are not problematic, you're just trying too hard. Do you remember the first time you dared not cry? Not because you were not sad, but because you knew crying would bring no comfort. You might even be scolded. Why are you so fragile? In that moment, you learned to shut up. Perhaps it was a night after an argument. You hid in the corner of your room, watching the shadows of parents arguing through the door crack, clutching unfinished homework. You were too small, but already realized emotions are useless. Crying does not make things better. Shouting does not bring care. So you chose silence. Or perhaps it was that time at school when classmates excluded you. You mustered courage to tell the teacher, but it was brushed off lightly. Going home to confide in family, but interrupted, "Don't be so sensitive." You began to understand some wounds, even spoken, no one listens. So do not speak. It might also be on your birthday, quietly cleaning up cold leftovers. Because adults were too busy. No one remembered it was your day. You looked at the empty living room, vowing silently never to expect special moments again. Every ignored detail was a practice in retreating into your shell. You learned not to reach out, not to ask, not to tucked away hope, wrapped it in rationality, placed it in the deepest drawer. You told yourself people cannot be too fragile. But you know, that was not your original self. You too were once a child who cried, made noise, acted spoiled, but later those cries were seen as disturbance, that noise as immaturity, that spoiling never taken seriously. So you retracted those extra parts, leaving only the appropriate you, obedient, sensible, no trouble you. Every you who appears steady today has a child behind who was once extremely lonely. You did not suddenly become obedient. You just suddenly understood no one would catch you. At first, you just wanted less pain for yourself. Later, you sealed away joy along with it. Those behaviors that were once just coping slowly became your defined principles of being. You began defining yourself with maturity, protecting yourself with not troubling others, affirming yourself with prioritizing others. You told yourself, I cannot be too emotional. I cannot rely on others. I cannot ask for too much. You took these as wisdom, but they are scabs from old wounds. You thought you were doing well. But why do you feel more tired as you live? Why in crowds are you always sober too early, yielding too quickly, feeling exhausted too deeply? Why even when others say, you're easy to get along with, do you always feel distant from the crowd? You live more and more like a functional entity. When someone needs you, you are the most reliable one. When no one needs you, you are like air, with no presence. You are always the one who spots risks first, the one who notices others' mood changes first, the one who takes responsibility proactively. But you are also the one who cannot fall asleep for long after going home at night. You are not tired. You are just too used to holding on. You are not without grievance. You just learn to shut up. You strive to avoid conflict, yet never truly get close to anyone. You fear depending on others, yet always carry everything alone. You fear troubling others, yet never let others truly know you. You seem to have good relationships, yet few really understand you. You maintain surface harmony in all relations, yet neglect your relationship with yourself. You turn stability into an obsession, not disappointing others into faith. But in this process, you gradually lost yourself. You no longer know what you truly like. You no longer know what you truly need. You even wonder if you still have the right to want anything. You are praised as mature, considerate, good at caring for others. But no one sees your midnight whisper, I really can't hold on. You once thought this was the price of being a good person. But slowly you begin to doubt. Why does being a good person require losing yourself as the cost? You begin to faintly feel it is unfair, but you do not know how to break through. You stand at the edge of the world, smiling and matching everyone's rhythm, yet can no longer hear your own voice. You are not unwilling to express. You just have not been allowed to express for too long. No one has asked you for too long, what about you? You turned endure and understand into instinct, yet forgot living should have breathing. You no longer cry, no longer fuss, no longer expect. You learned decency for confirming love. You were never truly allowed to be a child, so you had to keep playing the adult. One day you begin to pause, to question if those ways you thought right truly suit you. You begin to slowly realize that the maturity you prided yourself on is actually reluctant concession. You are not naturally sensible. You just saw too early what insecurity is. You are not needing no one. You just discovered too early that dependence is a luxury. You are not unemotional. You were just taught that emotions make people dislike you. You were never indifferent. Just never had someone truly catch you for too long. You are not unwilling to act spoiled, just too afraid that spoiling brings cold eyes and perfunctory. You are not unable to cry, but long accustomed to wiping tears secretly in unseen corners. You learned suppression because you were once mocked for emotions. You habituated independence because you were once blamed for weakness. You accepted loneliness because you were once abandoned outside the bustle. None of this is your fault. It is that you carried the heavy burden of cannot disappoint others too early. You tried to become what others expected, yet forgot your original self. But now, you begin to be willing to stop and look at the self you have always hidden. You begin to understand you're not a forever okay person. You have the right to say, I don't, I've had enough. You do not need to always understand others to be understood. You do not need to always yield to be kept. You do not need to be perfect to deserve love. You can stop suppressing emotions. You can slowly learn to express needs. You can begin practicing asking what about me? Not to become a burden to anyone, but because you too deserve gentle treatment. You are not too sensitive. It is that no one asked if it hurts for too long. You are not too dramatic. It is that no one allowed you to be weak for too long. You are not unworthy of understanding. You just had no chance to be seen for too long. Now you begin to see. You begin to let go of self-blame. You begin to learn not to use silence as camouflage anymore. You begin to believe perhaps you can be caught. You begin to allow yourself to be less sensible. Even just a little is fine. You begin to slowly unclench your fists. Begin to no longer stay vigilant every moment. You discover the world is not always full of threats. You no longer have to say, it's okay first thing. You can try saying, I want to be cared for too. You begin to give yourself a pause button. When you do not want to smile, allow yourself to be quiet. When tired, no longer force yourself to perk up. You learn to gently pull attention from others back to yourself. You begin to ask, am I tired now? What do I really want to do? You begin to reacquaint with the self always pressed deepest. He is not weak, not willful, not immature. He is just a you who has been waiting for you to approach. You slowly learn boundaries. Learn to say no, not to hurt others, but to stop hurting yourself. You no longer rush to explain every refusal. You no longer force balance in every relationship. You finally understand true love will not turn away because you voice needs. You also finally understand you do not need to satisfy everyone. You only need to be at peace with yourself. You begin to no longer fear loneliness because you are finally not carrying everything alone. You stand in front of the mirror, looking at the real you, gently saying you are already good enough. You can finally fall asleep peacefully on some ordinary night, no longer anticipating storms, no longer holding breath tensely, no longer fearing silence. You begin practicing going slower, practicing not appeasing, practicing accepting help, practicing believing you deserve love without exchange. You no longer rush to become some ideal person. You begin allowing yourself to just be a real person. Those wounds may still hurt, but they no longer define who you are. You are not the adult who must always be strong. You are the child finally allowed to be soft. You are not the person who must care for the whole world. You are also the soul who can be gently looked after. Slowly, you begin returning to the origin, not becoming better, but becoming the person who was already good before the injury. Healing is not becoming someone new. It is remembering who you were before fear.